Good afternoon, and welcome to the 12th Annual Honors Symposium. It should really be the 13th but we missed a year. So maybe that's good, because that would be unlucky, right? Now, my name is Grażyna Kozaczka, and as the director of the honors program, I would like to congratulate our honors students, our honors seniors for this wonderful 4 years on campus, and also all the other honors students who just finishing a very successful year. At this point, I would like to ask our seniors to come forward to receive their stoles in a very sort of distant way. Nikki. Congratulations. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to thank a few people. First of all, I would really like to thank our wonderful faculty. Without you, there wouldn't be an honors program. You are teaching them, you're mentoring them, you're offering honors seminars, you're offering honors contracts, and they do appreciate it, as do I. So thank you very much. My gratitude and the gratitude of all the honors students also goes to President Ron Chesbrough, who is a staunch supporter of the honors program, and to Vice President Sharon Detmer, who also supports me and supports the program. So thank you very much. Today's symposium will be moderated by Jennifer Forward, who is the president-elect of the honors program. And thank you for your attention. We have to keep our program moving because the awards ceremony follows our symposium. So here's Jennifer.
Thank you, Dr. Kozaczka, for your introduction, and thank you to those of you who are watching, whether you are here in person or online on the live stream. So our first speaker this afternoon will be Amy Bubb. Amy will be earning a Bachelor of Arts in Biology and also has a minor in Communication Studies. Amy has been very active in her past 4 years at Cazenovia College. She is currently a member of 5 clubs on campus and on the executive board of one of them. She's also been inducted into not 1, but 3 honor societies: Alpha Lambda Delta, the first-year honor society, Tri Beta, the biological honor society, and Lambda Pi Eta, the communications honor society. Amy also currently holds the positions of head resident advisor and president of the All-College Honors Program. Additionally, she has been an athlete all 4 years of her college career on the women's swimming and diving team. Through her membership on the team, she has been involved with Cazenovia College's Student Athlete Advisory Committee as a representative and as its vice president. She is also on the executive board for the conference's Student Athlete Advisory Committee. After graduation, Amy will be attending the University of Ohio to earn her master's in public health. She ultimately desires to enhance communication in the medical field to improve the overall health and happiness of communities through her future work. Presenting a look into the anti-vaxxers movement in relation to the HPV vaccine, please welcome Amy Bubb.
Thank you, Jen. As Jen did just say, my name is Amy Bubb. I am earning my bachelor's of biology with a minor of communications, with eventually going to Ohio University to gain my master's in public health. This directly relates to my presentation today as well as my capstone. My capstone presentation was more specifically about the HPV vaccine and the arguments against it. And so for this, we gotta open it. Technology is not my forte. And so for this, I wanted to focus more on the communication side to save you the time of the biology mumbo jumbo that everyone else had to deal with when I presented my capstone itself. Jen, can you click? So today we're going to start with a discussion of the overall movement, focusing more on the history of it, some key points of that. Then I want to go into some more of what makes up an anti-vaxxer. I then want to talk about the communication theories and tactics that they use to spread their message. I then will relate it to the HPV vaccine to give you a real-life example, and round this all off with future implications of what to do. So for the history of this, believe it or not, vaccines, or at least preventative measures against viruses, dates back to the 18th century with smallpox. What they would do is take an uninfected person, introduce them to, usually it was a scab or some kind of remnant of someone who had smallpox. The uninfected person would then have some little reaction, then antibodies would be produced, and they would be protected. Of course, with this methodology, not too safe, so there was a reasonable amount of fear. Luckily enough, with the advancements of technology, vaccines have become much more safe. Another key point into this, it kind of has to do with advancements of technology. One of the high points of the history is, I think you all are at least semi-familiar with the Wakefield study. So this was the study done by Andrew Wakefield and 11 other scientists. This is the one that is most often used as an argument for the anti-vaxxers movement. This is the link of the MMR vaccine, the vaccine for mumps, measles, and rubella, and it's linked to autism. This has since been revoked, disproven numerous times. 10 of the 12 scientists have come out saying that that is not the case, that there is no connection with it. On the other hand of that, Andrew Wakefield himself has come kind of a poster child to the movement. He's appeared at conferences and in some of the movies that the movement has put out. So now with kind of defining what an anti-vaxxer is, I think it's important to note that it's not just someone who's against vaccines. What I found in my research specifically, as well as just directly said in studies and articles that I had read, was there's kind of a spectrum or a range of them. So at one side, we have people who are generally ignorant of the importance of them. Either they don't have the resources available to them to educate themselves, or they lack the education to understand the resources that they do have. On the other side, we have the more stereotypical individuals who are pushing pseudoscience and false facts to persuade people against these helpful preventative measures. So now, this is everything I could talk about pertaining to the anti-vaxxers movement. I think it's important to note that a lot of these are, can be summed up by the one point of fear appeals. That is their major motivator. For the sake of time, and to not bore you all, I have picked one of these that I think will encompass all of it. And that is the Witt's extended parallel process model. I know that this can be a little confusing, so I'm gonna sort of break it down so that it'll be easiest to understand. So this model, essentially, their goal is to understand how a person will react to a possible threat. So the three things that I think are the really key points is susceptibility, severity, and the self-efficacy. Susceptibility is evidently, is it likely to happen to me? Severity, how bad is it? Is it going to be more of a nuisance, or is it a life or death situation? And self-efficacy is the idea of, do I have the power to change or encourage whatever this is? So put together, severity and susceptibility, that goes into the overall concept of the threat. If it's high severity, high susceptibility, we then go into evaluate the self-efficacy. It's extremely severe, I'm extremely susceptible to it, can I do something about it? If it is decided that you can't do something about it, they will typically go into fear control. This was usually seen as very dismissive and avoidant of the issue itself. If they do think that they can do something, it will go into danger control, which will then, as you can see, lead to a behavior change. In relation to vaccines specifically, it's typically for lack of a better term, severity is usually life or death. Susceptibility is very susceptible. And of course, you can do something about it, which is their argument of not getting vaccinated. So here's a real life example. These are the 3 arguments that I found most often when I was doing my capstone. For those of you who don't know, HPV is a sexually transmitted disease, which is where we get this first argument of it leading to early onset of sexual activity. I was quick to find numerous studies saying that this was, in fact, not true. Then, of course, we have the typical that the vaccine causes autism. According to the National Institute of Health, signs of autism typically will start showing around 1 year of age. For this vaccine specifically, it's recommended to begin at the earliest age 11. So evidently, as you all can tell, there's a little bit of a math difference there. And the last argument that I found was arguing that the vaccine is extremely expensive and the overall big threat of big pharma. This, again, was not true. The HPV vaccine specifically is typically covered under most insurances. And if you don't have insurance, there are numerous programs for individuals to be able to get the vaccines for free. For people 18 years of age and under, there is Vaccines for Children program that will give the vaccine for free. And then for those who are 19 and older, Merrick, the producer of the most used vaccine for HPV, actually has an assistance program that will provide the vaccine for those individuals for free. So now you can tell it was relatively easy for little old me to find reasonable arguments against their arguments against the vaccine. But even still, there's a big hit to the distribution. So HPV vaccine is a 2-dose series, and these numbers indicate exactly how many are getting that. So these are for individuals from 13 to 17. 66% of them are starting the dosage. And then only 49% of that 66% are actually completing it. This evidently is an issue, as HPV has been linked to numerous cancers and genital warts, which, if you get the vaccine, improves your likelihood to avoid those nuisances extremely. So now, what to do? The biggest thing that I found, and I even came to conclude from my capstone, was the need for education, and the need for education on all 3 of these fronts. We need to start educating our doctors and medical professionals of how to start this conversation and how to best implement or indicate the resources available to parents and patients to educate themselves. Parents need to take the initiative to do their own research and understand what the importance of the vaccine is, what the dangers might be for their child specifically or themselves specifically. And then patients in general, whether they be children or older individuals, they need to be able to, again, educate themselves. And that, I think, needs to start in schools and programs such as that so that they can start learning how to research specifically and how not to just believe everything that they hear. Like I said, I think on all 3 of these fronts, improving that education and overall improving the communication and the conversations being had would be the best way to get more people vaccinated and hopefully more people safe. Thank you. Are we doing questions now? At the end.
Thank you, Amy, for your exceptional presentation. Our next presenter is Emily Burr, who will be earning a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and also has a minor in Women's and Gender Studies. Throughout their 4 years, Burr has been involved in many campus clubs and activities. They have served as part of the Campus Activities Board as its vice president and been a general at-large member of the board. Additionally, they have been the co-president of SPAC, Safe Place at Caz, for 2 years, and they also serve as a senior Student Government Association senator and the vice president of the All-College Honors Program. Since freshman year, they've also had the honor of being a part of the REACH program and also a peer tutor. Most notably, they've been a resident advisor for the past 2 years and are currently head resident advisor of Farber Hall, which ultimately ties into the topic of this presentation. Their main passions are currently residence life, learning about diversity topics, and helping others in any way that they can. After graduation, they will be attending Alfred University for their clinical mental health counseling program for the next 2 years. After that, they aim to further train towards being an LGBTQ+ gender therapist and live somewhere warm, which you can't blame them for that one. Presenting the discrimination of gender-expansive students within higher education, please welcome Emily Burr.
Thank you, Jen. So my capstone involved the discrimination of gender-expansive students within higher education, which ties closely to my major and my career goals. Okay, so an overview of what we're going to go over today. So first, I'm just going to quickly go over what my thesis was for my capstone, and then I'm going to show you a preview of my poster that I made. And then I'm going to explain some previous research that I researched about this. And then I'm going to go over my study that I conducted. And then go on to significant findings from the results of the study that I conducted. And then go on to the college progress involving the topic in general. And then also go over future research that should be done in order to delve deeper into the topic. So my thesis, basically, this is my whole thesis. The goal of the current research is to examine how policies in the higher education system exist to discriminate against transgender and gender nonconforming students, rendering such students invisible and decreasing their overall success in higher education. And this is the poster that I made with the help of Denaro and Heather Maloney-Stassen. And I'll be going through each section explaining what my research involved. So previous research. My previous research involved three main topics. I first delved into discrimination experiences that trans and gender nonconforming students face in higher education. Trans students tend to report more exposure to harassment and discrimination on campus and a lower sense of belonging as compared to cisgender students. Then I went more into higher education policies because I wanted to see what policies already existed as well as what policies are technically discriminatory. Most colleges offer little or no support to this part of the campus population, making it harder for gender minority students to succeed in higher education. And then finally, I delved more into mental health disparities within the community. Counseling and other services are a struggle to access for gender minority students because of lack of knowledge and preparedness of institutions. So my study, basically, I had a total of 51 participants. They were all Cazenovia College students, and the survey was completely online. And their ages ranged from 18 to 44 with a mean age of 20. And then for gender, there were 33 cisgender females, 11 cisgender males, 4 non-binary / gender nonconforming participants, and then 3 more participants who did not specify their gender. And basically, the main constructs that I went over, assessed through the study, I focused on 2 main constructs, which include gender minority student experiences on campus, and then campus opinion and viewpoint of gender inclusive housing. So some significant findings that I found from the results of this survey and my study. So in general, there is a significant difference between the college experiences of gender minority and cisgender students. Also, gender minority students are more likely to experience discrimination and view this college campus as an unwelcoming environment than compared to cisgender students. Involved in that, question results in the survey concluded that from student experience, faculty and staff are more likely to use the correct pronouns and names of cisgender students rather than gender minority students. Along with that, survey results indicate that most participants, including cisgender participants, are in favor of gender-inclusive housing options. And then finally, findings are specific to Cazenovia College, and further research is needed on specific institution policies and also access to healthcare services. And then I wanted to also include current actions and progress that the college is making surrounding this topic, because a lot of changes have happened over the past year, especially this past semester. So first of all, the diversity and equity section of the college website is updated with current changes that have happened. And then also, the gender-inclusive housing form pictured above is updated and accurately reflects what gender-inclusive housing means, because in the past, the gender-inclusive housing form was more of like a student could fill it out and request a specific other student of some other gender, but only that specific student and not actual gender-inclusive housing that many other universities have. But now it's updated and changed to be more general and more inclusive. And then also, for the first time ever, Farber Hall is being included in the housing preference form when returners and new students go to choose their housing as a living option for students of all genders. This has been a topic of discussion since before my freshman year in 2017, and I'm happy to say that it's finally happening. And then also, for the first time ever, the college has created a chosen name form, pictured above, for students to utilize. It won't legally change a student's name or change their name on their financial information, but in other aspects of the college system, it will change their name to their chosen name. And then finally, there is an updated living learning communities are also making a comeback. We've had them previously, but they're coming into the fall semester. There will now be 3 living learning communities in the residence halls, and one of them, pictured above, which involves multicultural affairs, is specifically about diversity and will consist of gender-inclusive housing, which is a first ever for the college. And then some further research to consider and delve into. First of all, if I were to do this again or delve into this deeper, I would like to increase my sample size, because I would love to have more feedback than 51 students. Also, what may be needed to include in future research is the consideration of racial and ethnic intersections of identity. In my study, there was 40 out of 51 people who identified as white, which is roughly 78% of participants. And this needs to be, there needs to be a better tracking of students of color's experiences on campus, especially in regards to if their identities intersect with sexuality and gender. Along with that, mental health experiences, where there needs to be more feedback on mental health experiences within the residence halls. And then additional research additional research is needed in order to, on access of health resources in order to determine a baseline for adequate standards for minority students in college. And then this also includes access and increased access to mental health resources. And then along with that, there needs to be more research done on the commuter and transfer student population. This was severely underrepresented in my study. I did not get a lot of responses from commuter and transfers. However, if I were to do it again or go into further research, I would focus more on getting more from the commuter and transfer population. And then also the implementation of more inclusive and equitable institution policies and reflecting more on what local colleges comparable to our size are doing and sort of going off of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Burr, for your very informative presentation. Our next presenter is Emily DeYoung, who will be earning a Bachelor of Professional Studies in Management with a specialization in equine business management. She also has an equine reproductive management certificate. Emily has been involved in various parts of the campus during her college career. As an equine student, she has participated on the equestrian team and gained experience in equine sports while working with a team. These are skills she will carry into the rest of her life. She has also worked as a resident advisor for 2 years and gained knowledge about different people and the barriers that they face. Experiences in college, both academic and social, inspired Emily to help anyone interested in the equine industry to feel comfortable participating. After graduation, Emily plans to find a career in the support sector of the equine industry to encourage diversity and accessibility to anyone interested in participating. Presenting the impact of non-major classes on student career paths, please welcome Emily DeYoung.
Okay, so thank you all for being here today. So as Jen said, I'm Emily DeYoung. I am an Equine Business Management senior with a certificate in equine reproduction. I understand most people present on their capstones for this presentation. Mine was a business plan for a hands-on equine business, so it would have been pretty dry. So instead, I focused on something that really did impact me over my 4 years, which was kind of reaching out and taking different classes that weren't specifically for my major, which completely or whatever it is, completely changed my career path coming out 4 years later. So a little bit on why I care about this at all. I came into college 4 years ago, kind of had fallen into the equine industry. I knew I loved it, and I still love it. And I just knew I didn't want to work in an office. And as I hadn't done much research on what the options were, I kind of just latched on to the most opposite from an office job that I could, which was hands-on in the equine industry. Barn manager in the trenches, touching horses every day. And that is not what I plan on doing now. And a big reason why my career goals have changed so much were gen eds, which is what the majority of this presentation will be, but also the honors program has done a lot for me with kind of forcing me to take that step out. Normally, I'm not very adventurous, and these 4 years have really helped me kind of come out of that shell. The honors seminars that I had to take, you want to take things you're interested in, but you do kind of have to take what's available. So I ended up taking 2 honors seminars, one on the Holocaust and World War II through literature, and another on immigration to the US throughout different countries throughout the years. And both have almost nothing to do with horses, but I really enjoyed them, and it helped open up kind of my knowledge base about people. I love history. I loved history in high school, and I had a base level about these events, but reading about the experiences of people in their own words was very impactful for me. And I kind of took that knowledge to the equine industry, and I love it, and I really realized how lucky I was to be able to get involved. Physically, location-wise, mentally, socially, I was able to kind of make that jump, and horseback riding was a therapy to me in high school and today in college. And I realized how many people don't get that experience, whether they feel unwelcome in the industry or they can't afford it, whatever the reason, and I really wish it wasn't that way, because it's really helped change my life. So I was doing some research. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do for the presentation. And what I ended up looking at a lot was gen eds and the idea of the traditional college path. And obviously it's different for every person, but most people come into college with some idea of a major or a career, or they sample classes until they figure out what they want to do. And even if you take that role of sampling classes, you have some idea. You know you want to be in kind of the English major area or the science major area, and you figure out what you want to do from there. One of the articles I was reading from The Breeze stated that 20 to 50% of students actually enter college with an undecided major. So a lot of people take that sampling, but still kind of stay within their own area instead of branching out and taking these classes. And that's where the gen eds kind of come in. You have to take that step out of your area and take different classes. However, a lot of times you hear the advice a lot, take this gen ed, it's the easiest. You don't need to do much work. You can focus on your other classes. And, you can't really blame people, but it doesn't do much for your learning, and it causes frustration on both ends, and really just isn't helpful. And there are reasons for it. College is expensive. You kind of want to come in, take your classes, and focus on, some people want to graduate early, and you just want to get through your classes and get out of here. So the easiest place for me to start was looking at Caz College gen eds and realizing how different all of the different colleges used the gen ed system. So for Caz, the written communication, quantitative spoken communication, visual literacy, cultural literacy, diversity and social consciousness, scientific literacy, and ethics, a lot of different classes. I mean, I've gone through and obviously with graduation fulfilled all my requirements, but I didn't realize how many different classes I was taking. And a lot of people don't. Everybody has to take the classes, whether they're science, taking scientific literacy and ethics, or an English major taking written communication and having to take cultural literacy. And with the honors program as well, not everyone has to do it, but stepping out with the honors seminars and the honors contracts with helping you kind of delve into the classes you're taking within your own major. So the flaws, I was looking a lot about gen eds and realizing how different all of the different colleges do it. And realizing how much of a discussion there is on kind of the best system, which I am not qualified to speak on. There were a lot of voices online and a lot of different professionals kind of talking about this. But a lot of the flaws for most gen eds that came out was the fact that students may miss out on career experiences and major electives and things like that if they need to take an ethics class and they're not able to take that internship, or specific major elective such as riding instruction for the equine program. But a lot of that can be avoided with scheduling, working closely with your advisor, and making sure you're getting things done when you can to be able to fulfill those requirements while still caring about the class that you're taking. And when you're just kind of chasing a good grade and trying to get things done, it just leads to frustration on both parts. You hear a lot of people complaining about the class that they don't want to take. And I mean, you've got a lot of different options. Within each of those areas, there's a lot of classes to take. And a lot of people might take something that they're not interested in just to get it done. And you're not taking anything out of that. Your professor's frustrated with you because you're struggling with the class and you're not interested in it. And it just leads to problems on both sides. One of the articles I was reading was talking about how gen ed should be treated like a minor. It's an opportunity to step out of your kind of area and realize that maybe you don't want to do exactly what you thought you did. You might realize that you do love science and writing as well. It's an opportunity to learn more about yourself, before you're out in the real world. So the benefits, as a lot of people were surprisingly in favor of getting rid of gen eds entirely, there are a lot of benefits. One of the stats I found was only 27% of college grads actually have a job linked to their major in college. For a lot of reasons. I mean, a lot of seniors that I graduated when I was a freshman realized their senior year that they wanted to do something completely different. And if they'd changed their major, it would have been 4 more years. You kind of finish it out and you use those gen eds to take the classes that you're interested in and, make your way in the career that you're interested in. And a lot of these gen eds are more related than I think a lot of people think, talking to other students. You know, some science majors scoff at having to take some English classes, but you know, you're doing research and you need to write about your findings. And you know, in a way that's effectively written, but can also communicate your findings to somebody who is not an expert in your field. You know, it really helps to kind of interact with people outside of your specific interest area, because you're going to have to in the real world. You know, you're going to have to interact with people who aren't passionate about exactly what you're passionate about, and be able to interact and figure out how to talk to people about their interests as well. It really just helps with that wider worldview and realizing that everybody has different interests. An article from SNHU talked about how courses provide students with different perspectives from which to view the world, giving them the ability to tackle a variety of real-world problems. It's a really fancy way of saying it's more tools for your tool belt. You need to be able to support yourself in the real world, and you're not going to be, you know, talking to exactly scientists from your industry. So just to kind of conclude, I don't know what the best system of gen ed is. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of pans out. I didn't know that was such a hot topic right now. But there's a lot of people for getting rid of them entirely, which I think is a bad idea. They've done a lot with helping me completely change my career goals and career path, and it could really help you finalize and figure out exactly where you want to be in a specific industry, or change it entirely. So I hope this has been somewhat interesting. Thank you for listening. And there are my references.
Thank you, Emily, for your presentation. Our final presenter this afternoon is Nikki Trexler, who will be earning a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and also has minors in pre-law and women's and gender studies. Nikki has a passion for helping individuals in need and advocating for those who are underrepresented in our society. Nikki will tell you herself that making a difference in people's lives is something she will always devote herself to. She currently works full-time in a residential program for individuals with severe mental health conditions and continues to stay involved in the campus community. Nikki is the co-president of the Psychology Club and a public relations representative for the All-College Honors Program. Additionally, Nikki is a member of Alpha Lambda Delta and Psi Chi, the Psychology Honor Society. After graduation, Nikki will be attending Syracuse University to earn her Master of Social Work in the fall. Afterward, she's hoping to be involved in improving mental health policy and nonprofit organizations throughout the state. Presenting Exposing Societal Prejudices, Memes and Mental Illness, please welcome Nikki Trexler.
Thank you, Jen. Hi, everyone. My name is Nikki Trexler, and I will be discussing my capstone project entitled Exposing Societal Prejudices, Memes, and Mental Illness. Today, I will be covering why mental health memes matter, how my capstone relates to the issue, the results of my capstone, and how you can help combat mental health stigma. First, let's discuss technology. Technology has advanced tremendously, especially over the past few years. Technology has been beneficial, especially in the times of COVID right now. Memes are among one of the things that have emerged due to technology. Memes are categorized as pictures with text to spread motivational appeal, generally through humor or pathos. Memes can be shared without being censored because they are pictures with text. Unfortunately, some memes shared are harmful. So how does this relate to mental health conditions? I have numerous social media accounts myself, and I have seen harmful memes towards individuals with mental health conditions. I instantly wondered how this affects memes, or how this affects society in viewing these memes. Mental health is so important because we as human beings are important. 1 in 5 individuals are diagnosed with a mental illness. It may affect you, a loved one, or a neighbor. Many studies have shown that TV shows, the news, and movies portray stereotypes of individuals with mental illnesses as being dangerous and not trustable. This is super alarming because it furthers societal stigma on mental illness. Because of this, I was curious as to how the exposure of mental health memes affected social media users. My data collection study consisted of 63 participants in a survey. These participants were exposed to either positive or negative mental health memes at random. Then they were asked to rate the memes based on if they were funny, supportive, clever, hurtful, or sad. Following this, they were asked 22 questions from the Prejudice Towards People from Mental Illness scale. All of the questions asked in the survey were based on a 5-point Likert scale. The categories from the PPMI scale ranged in fear and avoidance, malevolence, authoritarianism, and unpredictability. These questions ranged from those who have serious mental illness should not be allowed to have children to I would talk to somebody with a mental illness. Now you're probably wondering what mental health memes I used in my study. The positive memes are on the left, and I'll read them just in case you can't see them. It says, mental health is just as important as your physical health. Self-care is how you take your power back. Your mental health is a priority. Your happiness is an essential. Your self-care is a necessity. If I survive the war that I battle with myself, I can survive anything. And then on the other side is the negative mental health memes. The first one says, I'm nice to the crazy person at work, so if they decide to shoot up the office, they'll spare me. You don't need meds, they said. You'll be fine, they said. Not sure if a crazy person or has a Bluetooth earpiece. I'm not for gun control, but I do support crazy person control. And these are really super discouraging. While I was searching for negative mental health memes, I actually came across some that were super triggering and I didn't want to expose my participants to. This is not good because anybody should not have to view anything so cruel and misleading scrolling through social media. The results from my research indicated that authoritarian stigma was approaching significance for participants who viewed the negative mental health memes. This means that there was less than a 5% chance that these results occurred by chance. Another important finding from my research indicated that individuals who had more stigma saw the positive memes as funny. This is super disheartening because it suggests that people think that receiving help for your mental illness is funny. So what does this mean? There needs to be more education on mental health. People may react in correlation with what they are exposed to. And how can you prevent the spread of mental health stigma? Be mindful of what you post on social media. Educate yourself and others, or get involved with a local nonprofit organization. Some resources you can visit are NAMI.org or the National Institute of Mental Health. Today we discussed why mental health memes matter, my capstone, and how you can help. Next slide. Yeah, there you go. The last thing I wanted to address before we conclude is May is Mental Health Month. Mental health matters every single day of the year. If you are able to donate or volunteer your time to a mental health organization, millions of people would really appreciate it. If anyone you know is in a mental health crisis or yourself, feel free to call 1-800-273-TALK. Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you, Nikki, for your marvelous presentation, for everything you showed us about the stigma with mental health, fittingly in Mental Health Awareness Month. And thank you to all of our speakers for presenting to us today. You all did a phenomenal job, to say the least. So now we have a little bit of time left for a short question and answer session. So Courtney, could you come up here for me? We might not have time to answer everybody's questions, but we're gonna get to as many as we can. So for those of you joining us on the live stream, I ask that you type your question into the chat and also the name of the person you want to answer your question. And Courtney will be monitoring the chat and we'll read the question accordingly. And if you're in the audience and have a question, obviously I can't take this microphone down and pass it to you. So I'm just gonna ask that you raise your hand and I will call on you and then I'll have you stand up and ask your question as loudly as possible. Okay, so does anybody have a question in the audience to start, to give people time to type? Or you can just say a nice little congratulations too, that works. Oh, Dr. De Niro.
I didn't find any specific research because this was right at the very beginning before really there were even the vaccines available. But knowing and semi-understanding the movement itself, I wouldn't be surprised if there were. Overall, I think the fear surrounding the vaccine right now is just the unknown of, COVID kind of hit us very quickly. The vaccines were produced very quickly, FDA, emergency approval. It was all very fast for a lot of people. So I think the best thing to do is just kind of wait and see. Hopefully people will take the time and again, educate themselves, figure out what is best for them, have that conversation with their doctor, and decide from there.
Still nothing in the chat, so do we have anything else in the audience by chance? Dr. Kozaczka.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of people in general, not just at this college, but a lot of people have repeatedly said, oh, trainings are the solution. And trainings are great. I think they're a great opportunity to learn more, especially when, obviously there's a lot of terms to learn, to know, and people obviously are not always experts and they're not expected to be experts. But I don't think trainings are an end-all, be-all, solution for misgendering or dead-naming someone. I think it's just more of, honestly, at least for me personally, taking accountability and sort of holding yourself responsible for the words that come out of your mouth and knowing okay, I know this person's name, I know their pronouns, and just being mindful of the words that you say. Obviously people make mistakes, but it's more along the lines of okay, you made a mistake, just correct it real quick. And if you keep correcting yourself, ultimately, you'll get it. I used to not be an expert on names and pronouns and stuff. And here and there, I, mess things up with friends and I just correct myself. I keep correcting myself because ultimately when you're talking to the person, you care enough. You care to know their name and their pronouns, and that's why you commit yourself to holding yourself accountable and correcting yourself. Yeah, that's basically what I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think, at least with my experience, a really good way to go about it is, if you go around for introductions and stuff because you want to know your students, you say, okay, tell me your name, your pronouns, if you're comfortable, and then whatever else information, and just it helps when you state your own pronouns, as long as obviously you're comfortable, just because it makes all students feel more comfortable and open and realize that, oh, like you're a person that understands this concept, at least, you know, at a baseline level, and is open to, you know, knowing more about your students and learning about your students. No problem. Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience have a question? I think that's Professor Guy, or I can't really see. Awesome.
I truly did enjoy all of them. I've gotten much better at public speaking over the course of my college career. Absolutely hated it in high school and coming into college. So definitely all of the speaking classes that I've taken have been awesome. And definitely the writing classes as well. Like the business research methods, writing a 40-page paper, definitely would have passed out if I'd thought of that freshman year. But definitely just also taking it out, you know, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do I don't remember what it fulfilled, but film analysis was just a lot of fun. It was something that I'd taken a similar class in high school, and I just, you know, it's something different. And again, it just helps you think about a different industry, and helped me think more about, you know, people and their experiences as well.
I feel like we're putting the live audience on the spot here. Professor Lewis.
Hello. Hi, how are you? Yeah, of course, thank you. So I think that we as a college could provide more resources for students. One of the major things is mental health is not just 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Mental health is 24/7. A lot of students are going through things, whether professors or faculty sees it or not. I think that it's super important, especially now, to provide your students with those resources, and also to have more mental health counselors on campus. I think it's super important to address mental health no matter what class you teach, because obviously as faculty members you're here because you care about your students. And there are things that people don't know about each other. So I think with just providing resources for students and offering a 24-hour hotline will help that a lot. Thank you.
All right, so I have a question online for everyone from Terry Bubb. So for each one of you, was there one thing that totally surprised you in your research? So should we just go down the line? Hi, Dad.
For my research specifically, I think one of the most surprising things was I had found a survey done by parents indicating their specific reasoning for why they weren't giving their children the HPV vaccine. And one of the top ranking ones, and I'm talking top 3, was a lack of acknowledgement or information given by their medical provider, aka doctors and medical professionals just simply weren't bringing it up. They weren't educating the parents and patients on the health concern of what HPV, the virus itself, can cause and the benefits of the vaccine. So I would say that that was probably the most shocking thing that I found.
I think for me, I'd never really thought about it. Gen Ed's just, there is a big conversation going on about whether they're worth it, basically, and realizing how different every college does it. I remember there was something about how a lot of some of the state colleges, it wasn't New York State, were basically creating it so that they all had the same Gen Ed system, so to make transferring between them easy. And a lot of people didn't like it, and I think it was mostly because their system, there were some issues with the student body not feeling like it wasn't effective. But it was just interesting seeing how different everybody took it and how many kind of issues are coming up right now.
So what I found most surprising in, not just in my research, but specifically within my findings in my study, is that of the 51 participants, basically nobody had any negative feedback about the idea of gender-inclusive housing. Everybody was either neutral in the idea that it didn't really affect them, so they didn't mind, or they were positive and they really wanted it, or they saw it as a great opportunity for other students to take advantage of.
Hi, everyone. So what I found most interesting in my research is that people actually thought with their authoritarian stigma from answering the PPMI questions was that they thought that they were better than individuals with a mental illness. And I think this is super discouraging because nobody should ever feel like they are better than another person based on their diagnosis. It just makes me really sad because I only had 63 participants, so it was not a large group of people. It scares me to know if I had a larger group of people, what that statistic would be. And what I have to say for that is just remember that everybody is a human being and everybody should be treated equally. Thank you.
Guess we'll take it back to the live audience. Unless I can answer the question, then I would say in my research of these amazing individuals, they are really busy and successful. But anyways, Dr. Chesborough has a question.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky thing. I think one of the biggest hurdles for that is the FDA approval. Since it was the emergency approval and not the typical approval of the other vaccines that we've had around for many years, it's putting on a little bit more difficulty of a mandate, I mean, it's kind of like you said, there's no really right, perfect answer. The scientific side of me says absolutely mandate them. We need herd immunity for those individuals who are unable to get the vaccine, to help, elderly, immunocompromised, young children. A lot of the arguments against the vaccine are, it's 99% survival, or, I'm less likely to get it. But, there's your family, there's your friend's family, there's so many other people that you may not directly come in contact with, but you might indirectly threaten the lives of. And then, of course, the other side of my body, my choice, of wanting to respect people's individual decisions. I think the winning choice for me would be mandating them. I think the pandemic has taken enough lives that we need to get the herd immunity to start protecting each other.
So one final question from Erin Dixon for everyone. What is one piece of advice you have for someone who's never presented to a large group?
Practice is the biggest thing. I think all of my comm professors will say that too. Running through it a few times, what I find most beneficial is I'll write myself a script. I'll kind of go through it once or twice with a script, and then I'll take the script completely away. Because I want my presentations, and this is personal preference, I want them to be more conversational than me simply talking at people and giving that kind of information. And of course, you'll have the occasional, but I think that's kind of normal in human conversation, right there. So again, practice, make sure that you're making a connection with your audience, because that's gonna really help with your experience as well as their experience.
I'm going to parrot what most of my coaches and teachers have told me: breathe. I have a problem with stopping to not breathing, which is detrimental to my health. But also what I've realized, I've had a lot of presentations within the last 2 months, and I tend to practice, with my note cards and with, timing myself, and I'm realizing more and more that I'm a panic, a rambler. So when I see that I'm not hitting my time, I start to ramble and add things in, and then when I suddenly don't have a timer in front of me, I don't know what time it is, and I don't know if I should be rambling. So suddenly I have no sense of time anymore, which isn't very useful.
With my experience, I would suggest exposing yourself to your fears, whether it be through a public speaking class like Professor Maureen's, or whether it be through going on stage like this one and being a part of theater productions.
Hi, my lovely bonus mom. She only asked this because I was really nervous to be here. I would say foster 2 kittens, because that's what we did yesterday. We picked up a week-old kitten, so that's what we're doing. But on a real note, just getting up here, because that was my biggest struggle, was just getting up here and doing the thing. So that's my best advice I can give you.
So thank you once again, Amy, Burr, Emily, and Nikki, for presenting to us today. You guys did nothing short of a phenomenal presentation, each of you. I'm blown away personally. And also for answering our questions with the detail and thought that you put into them. It was quite amazing. I also want to thank all of you for attending today, whether in person or in the audience, and just for supporting the honors program year in and year out. So with that being said, I guess, I don't know if I have the authority to do this, but you're dismissed, and have a great weekend.